G'day everyone, Calvin from the cartridge company here in New Zealand. Sitting on my bench in my garage, just trying to sort out a bit of a loom and do a pin out, searching my way through and then matching it with diagrams. But I've had a few people actually ask me what crimpers should they buy. And I think maybe the best way actually to do that is to not say, hey, buy these, is more so of what do I use. I've got my workbench set up in a fashion that I'm actually pretty happy with. It kind of works for me. We've got my workbench, computer there, and I'll sometimes put it over on the other bench. And then there's the in and out, so I try to clear that up on a sort of daily basis. And there's a few crimps here. My bag, if I'm out doing animals or moving stuff around. There's a couple of ECUs. I don't normally put keys on there. There's a scan tool unit, like a dongle, which is due to go back out to the car that's meant to live in. And then I've got my little toolbox. I actually got this from Glenn at the lab. Glenn, if you're watching this, this is from you. I've got my rubbish bin there. I've actually got a little compressor over here, and there's a battery charger, and I've got a dog. One of two. Don't get one of those. They're like hypo little buggers that just want to do shit all day. But he's lovely, eh, Frank? Hey, good. Right. What have I got in here? Actually, while we're over here by the dog, come back, I've got those big crimpers too, which I use for battery cables. So you can get hydraulic ones. There I've got connectors and plugs, more connectors, a special cupboard of stuff, my worth shelf, more stuff up there, bits and pieces, and that's the water pump for the house, because I am working in my house at home. But this is my test tools, and there's a few socket sets, spare heat gun, socket sets, and some different fittings and bits and pieces. Now, I know it sounds funny, but some tin snips are kind of handy. Step drills are handy. Heat gun for diagnosis. Then I've got my diagnosis drawer with, most commonly, actually I need to put this away, just a common bulb type test light. Now if I was really clever, I'd have different wattage bulbs too and have them written on there. Little amp unit which plugs into fuses. Files, which I know they sound strange and they're probably in the wrong drawer, but they actually, I use them quite a lot. Vacuum gauge, really handy. Spare multimeter, some circuit testers. Tape measures are handy. Moving up, this is more the tool drawer. I've got some spare side cutters and small long nose pliers, screwdrivers, mirror, screwdrivers again, Allen keys, just some basic sort of stuff in there. The big stuff's at the workshop, but this is the drawer we're going to talk about. And I did have it more under control, but what's happened is my spare set has actually migrated into here, because this is those are my favourite strippers, and this is, see, home too. They were actually somewhere else, but Pressman strippers, they work really well on the Tefzel. You can buy new jaws for them, so I really like those. I've got some Worth equivalents. They're not as good. Okay, so I bought lots of tools that don't work, and that you find out what does work. I did have, this is an 8-inch, I had a 7-inch pair of snips. They're really good for getting into wire and stuff, so just some nice sharp snips are really, really handy. These are a sterling. One of my workers used to say they were sharp enough to cut the pubes off a rhino. And of course, they came in red with the 7-inch, and the black ones were 8-inch. Irony of that. These are probably my favourite all-round universal crimpers. Okay, put them over here so you can see the part number. I actually buy them through Link ECU. Being a Link supplier, I can supply those, but those are my favourite ones. And I've got another set, very similar, but slightly different. The jaws, the sizing on the jaws is different on these ones, and so those are the ones that I prefer most of the time. Lots of guys quite like this kind of stripper. I'm not a fan. That's why it's at the back of the toolbox and doesn't really get used much. Now these fellas here. There's a good reason that there's 2 sets of these. And generally if you find two sets of the same thing, there's a reason. Actually that's like those ones. Again, I prefer that one. This has got the same jaws as that one. This one, U-Deluxe. Again, I use these a lot. These do my non-insulated type terminals. And just fantastic. And they do wear out. They do wear out in the pivots. Not too bothered, but really, really handy. I've got a stripper one here, which is okay if you're working with copper wire. But if you're going out on a job, like away from the workshop job, those ones will get me most stuff done. Okay, that'll get, and it may not be ideal, but they'll crimp most stuff because we've got a bit of a selection there. All right, and you see I can't do without them. There's another set in there just in case. These are actually insulated pliers for pulling spark plug leads off. These fellas here. I don't know if these have got a part number on them. I do a lot of Toyota, Sumitomo type connectors. Oh, it's going to have a part number. There we go. Can we get that? Okay, there's a parts number. And you can get different jaws for these. So I use them a bit on different jobs. Okay, so that's a set of pliers. And then I've got some crimps here. Or some bits, some jaws. They chose a good day for the screw to come out, eh? Right. Razor blades. I use a lot of those for jobs that we'd work on. And I've got a few old test tools that have been made into tools. So that was a test light that I've cut the tip down. 2-prong for removing pins on some stuff. Is that one? The one I use the most is this one. Okay, I use them a heap. Okay, there's your part number. And that's a different part number too. It's got slightly different jaws. Don't use that one very much. The one I use a lot of, you see, there's 2 of them in there. American, doing a lot of the American sort of stuff. The Delphi type connectors. There we go, that one. A couple of just random screwdrivers, which are handy. Some side cutters, different sizes. Some long nose pliers, which have been modified to suit. And then some Deutsch connectors. Deutsch crimpers, I should say, shouldn't I? DT and DTM. They work good. And again, 2 sets. I did have a spare set because I had another guy who would sometimes work in the garage alongside me. And I know it may sound strange, but these are actually my lamb elastrators for castrating lambs. Really good for putting rubber boots that need to be stretched over small things, or over big things. So small boots over big things. Really handy. Now I've got a couple more tools. We'll just, I was playing with crayons the other day. But up here, I got some digital verniers. This one. This is my 3UZ crimper. So this is what you don't want them to look like. That's bad. That's good. So I should order another one. Comes out of a little box. And then this fella here for doing 3UZ crimps. And guys sometimes ask, let's see if I can get it light, eh? There you go. Right, some guys ask why a job costs what it does. Well, these were $1,000 US. It's a genuine TE product for doing those big ones. So if you're doing a jet boat, you don't need these ones. But if you're doing 3UZ stuff or Lake Toyota stuff, that is the tool to have. a Worth multimeter. I use a lot of Worth stuff, not because it's the greatest stuff, but it's convenient and it works well. We could go through the bottom drawer, but that's my test gear. I've got some more, like a fuel pressure tester down here and a set of leads, jump leads and stuff for doing different jobs. My Tefs of wire, got to order more today. Lots of little pieces. Oh, there's some other little bits and pieces in here too. It's a bit of a mess at the moment, but that happens. Little tools like this for pulling wires out of different things, but a lot of time you don't need it. RT125 dispenser. More of those little amp meters, which I use a bit of. Part I meant to fit to my mate's truck. These are in the wrong place, some EGTs, sensors. Glues, epoxy resins, some more of those little Bluetooth dongles. The main ones that I would buy if I was on a budget and wanted to get some stuff done. My Link ones, those green ones, 100% they'd be on the list. Some of those. Some of those. One of those. Some side cutters, some long nose pliers. And side cutters, they last me about 6 months to a year, depending on which ones I'm using. That's why there's so many in the drawer, because the bottom ones are going to be recycled for other jobs, but I haven't got a job for it to go to. So if there's a little toolbox I need to set up, or if there's a bit of equipment that needs a pair of side cutters in, I'll get a pair of my old ones and put them into the toolbox of that piece of equipment. So even though they're worn out, I don't throw them out. They get recycled to a non-critical job, which might be, cutting ties off a roll of wire somewhere. But I'm always cutting wire, so there's a pair of side cutters there. Hopefully that's helpful. Oh, a pair of flush cuts too. My flush cuts are somewhere else buried under the pile of paper over here. So a pair of flush cuts, small flush cuts, would also be a really, really good idea. Of course, if you're doing different terminals and different connectors, you slowly build up to those other ones. My multimeter is going to turn off. So hopefully that's been helpful. We'll talk to you again soon. Catch you later.